It may seem that the story of you is chaotic. However, in reality, it is not. The more stories you pass through, the more likely you will be to piece it into one whole picture. Use every possible opportunity. The truth is somewhere close. I suppose I will start at the very beginning. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there lived you. Despite his unusual name, his life was hardly any different from others. It was an unusually usual day when he was getting ready to go to work. 2 hours of sleep. What a formality, he said to himself, glancing at his watch. He was used to working at night, just as he was used to never having days off. That morning, the buttons on his shirt were fastened faster than usual. This was not by chance. The tear-off calendar boldly declared Friday, April 3rd. It reminded him that there were only 3 workdays before his holiday, and there was no room for mistakes. His room in a communal apartment was not very big, so it did not take him long to pack. Having got dressed, he quietly walked past the neighbors' rooms into the hallway. Somebody was snoring loudly in the furthest room, which caused you to smile for some reason. He walked up to the front door and accidentally stepped on a pile of letters. Picking up the envelopes, he saw his name on one of them. You automatically put it in his pocket and walked out. The thought that next Sunday, a huge stone would be removed from the entrance to the crypt of his existence by the power of labor legislation kept you going. Glancing at the address line, a chill went through Yu's body for a split second. From Darina. Yu was confused by the seal on the envelope, indicating the place of departure, no leave grad. Is she really coming back to Cannot? Yu wondered. Dear Yu, my doctor's suspicions are confirmed. I have the same disease that struck you. I thought it over and decided that we need to break up. It may seem that things like that should bring people closer, but it would be unfair to myself. We can have our last date on the morning of April 3rd in the Seafront Cafe, and then I will leave Cannot and go abroad. He felt dizzy. Although Yu suffered from excessive hypochondria, he really had an incurable illness. He clearly remembered the day when he heard the diagnosis. Since that moment, he stopped counting new birthmarks on his body. He seemed shaken up after reading the letter, but not surprised. He tried to squeeze out a tear, to see if he was still capable of showing emotions. Alas, he just welled up a little. You decided that it was because he had drunk a large amount of coffee, which dehydrated his already dried up body. Approaching the seafront, he tried to spot Darina. It did not take him long to find her. There she was, at the cafe table. She probably had no clue how much he appreciated her starting the conversation. Usually, you are late. I am tired. I hope you understand me. But he did not. Having overcome his anxiety, he squeezed out a handful of words. Do not go away. Let's try once more. Too late. I have put up with my life for the sake of old age. Now, there will be no old age. There had always been a gap of misunderstanding between them. He had embraced his illness long ago and resignedly yielded to his ailment with a loud, "Make yourself at home." It seemed that he had become closer to his illness than to Darina. He got distracted thinking about himself and missed her meaning. Reflections on how to rebuild his life from the very beginning prevailed over the others. He was not ready to renew his relationship with himself, so he mentally grasped at the crumbles of the past seeping through his crucified palms. I am sorry. I have made my decision. I do not know why I arranged this meeting. She paid for the bill and left. You froze in place, at first not daring to say anything, and then resigned himself to the role of a scapegoat thrown into the unknown. For some reason, he saw something noble in their breakup. Yu was sure that he went to work immediately after the meeting, but when he came to his senses, he realized that he was on an unfamiliar street, cloaked by dusk. Despite the fact that the street seemed to be deserted, he felt someone's heavy presence. Turning to rustle behind his back, Yu impaled his chest on a knife, squeezed in the hands of a long familiar figure. Greetings from the past. Whether from pain or surprise, Yu could not utter a single word. The murderer carefully took out the blade and laid your motionless body on the ground. Blood flowed through the cold mosaic of paved stones. The corners of Yu's mouth spread into a smile. I suppose I will start at the very beginning. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there lived Yu. Despite his unusual name, his life was hardly any different from others. It was an unusually usual day when he was getting ready to go to work.
2 hours of sleep. What a formality,
he said to himself, glancing at his watch. He was used to working at night, just as he was used to never having days off. That morning, the buttons on his shirt were fastened faster than usual. This was not by chance. The tear-off calendar boldly declared Friday, April 3rd. It reminded him that there were only 3 work days before his holiday, and there was no room for mistakes. His room in a communal apartment was not very big, so it did not take him long to pack. Having got dressed, he quietly walked past the neighbors' rooms into the hallway. Somebody was snoring loudly in the furthest room, which caused Yu to smile for some reason. He walked up to the front door and accidentally stepped on a pile of letters. Picking up the envelopes, he saw his name on one of them. Yu automatically put it in his pocket and walked out. The thought that next Sunday, a huge stone would be removed from the entrance to the crypt of his existence by the power of labor legislation kept Yu going. The trip to work took him by several blocks. He considered early morning to be an extremely pleasant time of day. Universal euphoria. Although euphoria usually precedes inevitable death. As soon as he went into the park, he saw a kid in ragged clothes running away from a pack of stray dogs. His eyes caught a swiftly ticking clock hand. Even though Yu had been scared of dogs since childhood, he was going to run to the kid's aid. But the latter stumbled and fell down on the pavement, and the dogs lost all interest in him. Yu had nothing to do with the outcome of events, but he was filled with pride for his desire to help the boy that he did not even know. It made him come up to the kid, who was sitting on the ground with a bloody knee and a toothless smile, not because of the fall, but due to his age. Yu was about to give the kid a handkerchief with his initials on it when he noticed it had fresh traces of his own blood. So he just asked,
Can I do something for you?
Thank you, sir. I am okay. They did not mean to hurt me.
At that moment, Yu saw his boss in the distance and hurried to work, shouting a quick,
Be careful,
over his shoulder. On the way to the office, the thought about how strange it felt to be addressed as Sir bounced around in his head. Although he had passed a 30-year-old milestone, he felt closer to the kid with a bloody knee than to sirs of any kind, even the least important of them. Yu went up 3 flights of stairs and found himself on the top floor. It was the office of the insurance company where he worked. The door was unlocked. Was he late? He tried to walk in, but was stopped by a stranger. Wait! Where are you going? Before you could give a proper response to the cad, his boss came up the stairs, struggling to catch his breath, and did it himself.
Let him in.
They both entered the office, and the boss walked you to his desk, where he explained the situation to him in private.
That is Frank, my distant relative. He needs to do an internship, so he is going to work here for a while. As who? As a security guard.
To avoid any further questions, the boss turned around and went to his office.
An internship as a security guard in an insurance company, fitting in 2 rooms. Ridiculous. If I was blessed with a writing talent, I would definitely immortalize this,
You thought. You got down to some clerical work. You found a moment and took the morning letter out of his pocket. Glancing at the address line, a chill went through Yu's body for a split second. From Dorina. Yu was confused by the seal on the envelope, indicating the place of departure. No leave grad.
Is she really coming back to Kenot?
He said out loud. Suddenly, there was a curious voice saying, "Who is coming?" Yu did not answer and continued reading. Dear Yu, my doctor's suspicions are confirmed. I have the same disease that struck you. I thought it over and decided that we need to break up. It may seem that something like this should bring people closer, but it would be unfair to myself. We can have our last date on the morning of April 3rd in the Seafront Cafe, and then I will leave Kenot and go abroad. He felt dizzy. Another working day turned into night. The newly appointed watchman dozed off at his improvised post, an ordinary chair at the entrance to the office. Yu was sitting at his sturdy desk, imagining again and again how the shelves, stocked with books on jurisprudence, would break loose due to their own weight from friable concrete and break his head. Allowing himself a little break, Yu took his diary from his table drawer and made a note.
I never took a plate of soup at school lunches, even when I really wanted to. I was afraid to spill it in front of everyone, but I could put it on the table, which seems to be my life's pattern.
Feeling some satisfaction from writing that, he resumed work. There was a rustle of the janitor's broom and the trill of birds outside the window.
More accurate than the clock,
You thought. Chapter 2. On the second day of work, every sip of coffee came out of his nose as blood. Covering his nose with his hand, Yu went to the restroom. Excuse me. I wish I could narrate a little faster and keep you from getting bored, but it is difficult in my condition. Let's continue. Returning to his workplace, You saw Frank sitting at his table and leafing through his personal diary. Such violation of personal boundaries, it seemed, was about to put you out of temper.
Give it to me.
Here, take it. I was curious. In a moment, you hid his diary in the drawer of his desk. I am sorry if I offended you. The incident seemed to be over, but Frank's intrusive nature got the better of him. Can I ask you a question? Why does everyone in your notes die? Perhaps the lack of communication affected you. Unexpectedly for himself, he answered the question directly.
I'm not sure, but it seems to me that the desire to kill a self-protagonist in the text takes root in the desire to alienate the described situations from a real self.
You said it as if he had prepared an answer to this question a long time ago, or at least he had thought about it before. Silence set in. Frank was embarrassed by his answer and tried to look understanding.
Well, more likely that it is just easier to kill.
The office phone rang. As soon as you came up to the phone, the ringing stopped. He barely returned to his desk when the phone rang again. As soon as you came up to the phone, the ringing stopped. He barely returned to his desk when the phone rang again. As soon as you came up to the phone, the ringing stopped. He barely returned to his desk when the phone rang again. The ringing bored into his skull. You was buzzing together with the receiver. You involuntarily took off, but his head started spinning, and he was seeing dark spots. Holding onto the railing, you slid down the stairs and jumped out onto the street. He ran into his boss at the door, who stood there smoking.
Go to bed now. You can give me the rest of the papers tomorrow.
He did not have any strength left to work anyway. Although he left some things in the office, you was not in a hurry to go back. He sat down on the doorstep to rest. His vision was not particularly keen on the second day, so it took him a while to recognize a familiar face. You livened a little. A welcoming grin appeared on his face.
Hi, Max. Why are you not at work? I dismissed my students a little early. How are you feeling? As usual, another night shift. If I was your father, I would have fired you long ago.
What will be left for me then? Max answered with a question.
Do you want me to take your shift? No, thank you.
You quickly said goodbye and left. He heard some painful coughing behind his back, and his lips let out a grin of satisfaction. Coming home, Yu could barely stand on his feet. Notwithstanding his lack of sleep and fatigue, he could not fall asleep. The day flashed in his head on repeat. As for the breakup, he did not see himself as the victim. On the contrary, the entire time during his relationship with Dorina, Yu wondered,
Why did she love him? Drained of all strength and weak in spirit from birth.
he did not anymore. Dizziness and pain subsided. At some point, he even thought about calling a doctor, just to make sure that he was still alive. But sleep took its toll. Chapter 3. The alarm went off. Yu faced a new day with weakness in his legs and a throbbing headache. All night long, he had been haunted by a painfully familiar nightmare. However, when he woke up, all tangible images dissolved, leaving only a nasty precipitate. His body led him to the kitchen in search of caffeine. Despite the early hours, he found his boss there.
How are you feeling?
Yu heard the question, but ignored it because of his sleepy state.
How difficult is it to answer?
Yu was pleased to hear the words of concern, even coming that way.
I'm sorry, Father.
A cup in Yu's hand inevitably filled with bloody coffee.
You look like shit. I feel like it. I do not want to lose my last son, even someone like you.
His father had his old wool suit on and was about to leave for work.
You do not have to go to the office today. Get some rest. Okay, I will try.
Yu went to his room and sat down at his desk. He took a pen and then remembered that he left his diary at work. Yu took some letters out of the drawer, which had not been sent for some reason. He took one of the letters and added a few lines to it.
Remember when grandfather made me listen to a rhythmic beat in the air? It is the heartbeat of a gigantic whale who swallowed our universe. And I believed him. What about you? You said it was just train wheels wobbling. So I decided that the whale had died a long time ago, which was better than it being just a fantasy. Do you understand? Asking you this is easy on paper because you will not answer me.
Adding those lines, he felt he had completed something important
and allowed himself to take a nap. Once he dozed off, he heard a knock on the door. Any unexpected knock on the door or telephone call could evoke severe paranoia in you. Because the knock on your door is louder and more alarming than on any other door. In a moment, there was rustling of envelopes slipping into the mail slot of the front door. Once he got up, his sleepiness was gone. Sorting out a stack of utility bills, you found a letter addressed to him. It was a letter from the sanatorium where he had undergone treatment that summer.
Dear Mr. Yu, I am afraid I have to inform you that you were misdiagnosed due to a serious mistake on my part. Your disease has a closed form, and the possibility of airborne or droplet transmission is excluded. To put your heart at ease, you can follow the precautions recommended to you earlier. However, I assure you that your disease is only focused on you. Accept my sincerest apologies. Your attending physician, K.
It would mean little to a healthy person. But to you, the news turned everything upside down. The disease got quiet. That time it did not try to get out. Having used you as a disposable case, it was snugly snoozing. You took a shower, washing away the fuss of the last days, and decided to go to work. You did not tell anyone about this, but I am going to tell you confidentially. He believed that the disease manifested itself most fiercely when he went to bed. That was why you did not like sleep. His night fantasies became crazier with time. Every dream seemed to him a step closer to insanity. In order to control himself, he regularly looked at his hands and at the clock hands. He walked out of the door and noticed a stranger near the opposite house. That stranger was an identical copy of you, as if his long-lost twin. You froze and watched him. The door was half open, and he saw a pretty girl and a little boy, probably the same age as the kid, behind it. The newly appeared copy of you smiled, said goodbye to his family, and disappeared. You liked to alter his route to work every now and then. He would walk through the park, or that patio, or the arch, by which he used to run so often. All that in order to somehow distinguish between days. Otherwise, everything merged into one endless stream. He remembered that it was the last working day before the holiday when he came up to the office door. Entering the office, you noticed that Frank was not there. He grinned at that maliciously for some reason. He found a new batch of documents on his table. Pinning his name tag on his jacket, you got to work. The work did not take as much time on the last working day. He easily sorted out insurance files and like a clerical deity, decided the client's fate, deciding who was to receive payments and who had mutilated himself with the purpose of deception. Having gone through most of the papers, he came across an extremely familiar storyline. Insurance form, life insurance, Form 42, fractures, serious illness, and death. Insurance does not cover self-inflicted injuries, self-inflicted infection, or suicide. Date of insurance, March 29th. Date of death, April 5th. Insurance sum, 203,500 coins. Salary, 15,000 coins. The client was an insurance agent. He bought a train ticket, later to be found under its wheels. Witness testimonies varied. According to some testimonies, he was pushed down onto the track. According to the other, he stumbled. Since the gap between the date of insurance and the date of death was so small, there was a note in the file indicating a suspected suicide. All risks were borne by the office that makes the final decision. Yu confirmed the insurance payout to his metaphysical colleague. What guided him when making such a decision? Did it evoke his sense of justice, compassion, selfishness, or maybe shame? I am sorry. No, you do not have to answer. Yu completed his work earlier than planned. Satisfied, he carefully unfastened his name tag and put it in front of himself. A confusing question went through his head. What's next? It was Yu's first holiday, and it seemed he did not even plan what to do during the long-awaited vacation. He took his time to clean up his desk and went to his boss's office. He formally knocked a couple times on the door and appeared before his father. Is there anything else I can do? If you have processed the last papers, then you need to fill out the statements. I already have. Wait, has your holiday just started? Look at the time. It is the end of the workday. You can go. I dismiss you. I will work some more. As you wish. Take it easy on the coffee. Yu took a folder with the statements and turned to leave. Fearing he might appear too soft, the father added, I do not need a stroke here. A satisfied smile flashed through Yu's face.